whatever happens to me is no longer something I can predict, nor anything congruous with what other anthropologists know about the belief systems of the Indians of Mexico. I find myself, consequently, in a difficult position. All I can do under the circumstances is present what happened to me as it happened. I cannot give any other assurance of my good faith except to reassert that I do not live a dual life, and that I have committed myself to following the principles of Don Juan's system in my everyday existence. After Don Juan Matus and Don Genaro Flores, the two Mexican Indian sorcerers who tutored me had explained their knowledge to me to their own satisfaction. They said goodbye and left. I understood that from then on my task was to assemble by myself what I had learned from them. In the course of fulfilling this task, I went back to Mexico and found out that Don Juan and Don Genaro had 9 other apprentices of sorcery, 5 women and 4 men. The oldest woman was named Soledad. The next was Maria Elena, nicknamed La Gorda. The other 3 women, Lydia, Rosa, and Josefina, were younger and were called the Little Sisters. The 4 men, in order of age, were Eligio, Benigno, Nestor, and Pablito. The latter 3 men were called the Genaros because they were very close to Don Genaro. I had already known that Nestor, Pablito, and Eligio, who was no longer around, were apprentices, but I had been led to believe that the 4 girls were Pablito's sisters, and that Soledad was their mother. I knew Soledad slightly over the years, and had always called her Doña Soledad as a sign of respect, since she was closer to Don Juan in age. Lydia and Rosa had also been introduced to me, but our relationship had been too brief and casual to afford me an understanding of who they really were. I knew La Gorda and Josefina only by name. I had met Benigno, but had no idea that he was connected to Don Juan and Don Genaro. For reasons that were incomprehensible to me, all of them seemed to have been waiting, in one way or another, for my return to Mexico. They informed me that I was supposed to take the place of Don Juan as their leader, their Nagual. They told me that Don Juan and Don Genaro had disappeared from the face of the earth, and so had Eligio. The women and the men believed that the 3 of them had not died. They had entered another world, different from the world of our everyday life, yet equally real. The women, especially Doña Soledad, clashed violently with me from our first meeting. They were, nevertheless, instrumental in producing a catharsis in me. My contact with them resulted in a mysterious effervescence in my life. From the moment I met them, drastic changes took place in my thinking and my understanding. All this did not happen, however, on a conscious level. If anything, after my first visit to them, I found myself more confused than ever. Yet in the midst of the chaos, I encountered a surprisingly solid base. In the impact of our clash, I found in myself resources I had not imagined I possessed. La Gorda and the 3 little sisters were consummate dreamers. They voluntarily gave me pointers and showed me their own accomplishments. Don Juan had described the art of dreaming as the capacity to utilize one's ordinary dreams and transform them into controlled awareness by virtue of a specialized form of attention, which he and Don Genaro called the second attention. I expected that the 3 Genaros were going to teach me their accomplishments in another aspect of Don Juan's and Don Genaro's teachings, the art of stalking. The art of stalking was introduced to me as a set of procedures and attitudes that enabled one to get the best out of any conceivable situation. But whatever the 3 Genaros told me about stalking did not have the cohesion or the force I had anticipated. I concluded that either the men were not really practitioners of that art, or they simply